Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to start this afternoon's session with Jeffrey Fenimore with a presentation on PennDOT's Videolog, the 20th anniversary. So a little bit about Jeff. He's the Geospatial Platform Services Section Manager for the Bureau of Data Management and Analytics, GIS Division. If you didn't know, at the Commonwealth, we like to have long names of everything. He has worked for the Commonwealth for over 31 years, 28 of which were with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. Currently, he and his team manage the geospatial infrastructure for the Infrastructure and Economic Development Delivery Center, including GIS applications, IIS servers,
You're not going to totally fall asleep on me. If I do notice that, maybe I'll send somebody from BPR over here to give somebody a nudge unless they're sleeping as well. But so to get quickly started here, what is the number one rule in 3 words for real estate? Location, location, location. And, you know, GIS is very much like that. Right? I mean, GIS has the word geospatial in the title, so it's all about location, location, location. And besides location, real estate as well as GIS has a lot of attribute data. And, you know, if you think in the real estate area, you know, you have a house up for sale. I mean, you'll have the attributes of, you know, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, acreage, you know, yada, yada, yada. And GIS, in so many forms and fashions, has the same thing. But if you just have the attribute data, a lot of times, depending on what you're looking at, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And with GIS, it's the same thing. Once you add that location data, like to a piece of real estate, you know where the house is. You know what school district the person's looking for. You know what city, what township, what borough, wherever. Without that, the house is just a bunch of rooms and data that doesn't really have much of a meaning to you. So take, for instance, what I have on the screen for you. If I were to say to you, what do you think of the object that's at that location? Doesn't really, you're like, I don't know what's there. I mean, I see 2 lines. I'm assuming it's a divided highway, and looks like, you know, PennDOT data, that's a segment that's highlighted, and you have an offset that you're at. And if you don't understand PennDOT and the linear reference system they use, it's kind of, think of, you know, like highway mile markers. It's similar in nature to that. It's based on county, the route that you're on, the segment, and then the offset being how far in feet you are from the starting point. So it's similar in concept. So that's kind of what we're looking at, but you have no idea where we are. So if we answer the question, if there was some way to get a little bit more in that data, location-wise, sometimes you don't even need to have the coordinates. Sometimes you don't need to have the segment offset for it to actually gather some meaning. And that's where imagery is. We've had a couple different sessions already on imagery. So I'm not going to go into all the detail they did on that. But when you think of imagery, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And a lot of times what will come to mind is, you know, aerial photography, set up as like a tile cache as the base map for what you're looking at. Very helpful in finding a location without being even told what the location is. Or a lot of times we'll use other base maps, like we have the PennDOT network one, which you see on the left side. Or just in a previous session, we were talking about topographic maps. If you were to place that data that I showed you earlier on there, you'd have a very good idea of where it even was. So say I take that data we have and I go out to a much smaller scale. Oh, now you kind of got an idea of where I was actually talking about. You know where the location actually is, down at the southern central-ish part of the state, but still doesn't give you a whole lot of reference. So we have to go to a larger scale using the PennDOT road base network. Now you're like, oh, okay, now I can tell where it is. It's on US 15, right down at the border of Maryland, you know, down below Gettysburg. So when we first started, you had no clue. And just with a few pictures, without giving you any location information, no data, just using imagery data has told you a whole lot about the location. I could even take it to another step and then go to the base map imagery, go into a little bit smaller or larger scale. And now you can see the roads, you can see the area all surrounding it. And if you look closely, just north of that, there's like a little object alongside the road, which is what we were talking about. And if I maybe go to the next step and take this imagery and put it into Videolog, combine the map, then you can kind of see what I was talking about. I was talking about the Welcome to Pennsylvania sign. That's the location you're at. So imagery isn't just the base map type imagery. Videolog presents another type of imagery, and whether you've used Videolog or not over the last 20 or so years, a lot of people here have probably used Google Street View. And we get a lot of comments, and I'm sure even in the back of your mind is, okay, give me Google Street View. What do I need Videolog for? There's a lot of different reasons why you would, as in PennDOT folks, be using this type of application, looking at this kind of data. One is it's authoritative in that it's very consistent. We get consistent deliveries. We know when the images are, where they're going to be, and PennDOT's using them very specifically to look at assets on the road, looking at safety concerns, things of those nature. Now, we only do have frontal views. We don't have the 360s. I could lie to you and say, oh yeah, we're going to do that. I don't think they ever will. There has been some discussion, even amongst myself, with the folks at BOMO that run the contract that actually get the Videolog images that you see, of getting a rear camera so that you can see both directions. You could drive on the roadway either direction. So that would be very helpful. But for what PennDOT is using it right now, it's a perfect tool. Now, as we go through this, I'm actually going to do a demo. One of the nice features that we've done in some of the more recent releases is we've added and embedded Google Street View. So while you're looking at the Videolog images, you could also bring up Google Street View for the same segment offset. So you could utilize both tools, as it were. So just real quickly, I'll give you a background. We say this is the 20th anniversary. We did make a kind of a big deal. It's not really true. 20 years ago, it was released to the public, to our planning partners. Anyone who's outside of the Commonwealth could view it. Back in '99 is when we actually started our first website internally. And these images like you saw there, even though they were at a much lower resolution, we started getting those back in 1998. And the BOMO Annex folks, I think, still have the original deliveries. They came in on CD. Okay? And when we get to another slide, talking about some of the tech part of it, takes a lot of CDs, especially when we're talking about the vast quantities of images that we are having right now. But in actuality, the Videolog application was an experiment. The BOMO Annex was actually doing a pavement project where they would actually get pavement data, and they would be looking at the surface conditions, and they actually had the trucks to go out and then take photos of the road. They do industry roughness indexes and check for cracks, but they also wanted to be able to do the location of where they were, so they took a photo so you could tell exactly where they were instead of just looking at the road surface. And it just came to be that, well, they're stored on these CDs, and if somebody wanted to look at them, okay, which CD is it on? Where do I got to go get it? Oh, so-and-so has that CD, and the database was on one CD and the images were on another one. So it all just kind of came to be in 1999 that we started to put this together. As far as the Google Street View, I did a little research. That didn't start until 2007, 2008 with 5 US cities. So this was all started about 10 years prior to even Google Street View. But we all know how great that product really is. I'm not trying to say, oh, ours is better or worse or anything like that. So just a really quick thing is that we have the application itself that we'll be demoing. It's running on IIS. It's a .NET application. All of our data on the back end is in Oracle 19c on a Exadata system that's on-prem. It's not in the cloud. And then all the services for the mapping portion are delivered by ArcGIS Server 1091, which is also on-prem at this time. There's the thing that gets you. 531 million images we have stored since 1998. Now, they are broken up into 2 types, full resolution or reduced. We call them thumbnails. They're not really tiny, but they're a reduced resolution. That really help if you have a slow connection. As you'll see, I might be, for our demo, probably switching to those just because of where we are and want to make sure that I can show it. But the other thing I forgot to put on the slide is storage space. It's about 82 terabytes. So it's a good amount of storage that we need for that. And if you think about it, it was about 4 terabytes a year right now. This year it's going to be a little different. We're going to, and I'll even show that, we're going from a single image to 3 image so we can get a wider field of view. I think it's like 160 or so degrees that you'll be able to see. But if you think about 4 terabytes, it would be about 5,000 CDs for a single year. So we started out that, it would be nice to be able to have a video showing you how we started with this, with machines that had like 6 CD drives in it starting to copy, and it was just crazy. Now we're on just a little portable drive that can do 500 gig to a terabyte. But that's where we were, and that's where we are. What are we actually capturing? About 40,000 state miles of roads. And what we do is they do the NHS, the major highways, the US routes, they do those every year. So we know that we will have up-to-date images every year on those. And then those that are state roads that are more like your back road, that if you know SRs that are the higher classification, the thousands on up, we do those every other year. So every 2 years, we have all of the state roads shot in Videolog. So and that would be one thing that if I just noticed they did a lot of updating in the last month on Google Street View, but I mean, you could go down a road and you could switch from 2022 imagery and then all of a sudden you're in 2017. So what happened over the last 6 years? But for what they're doing, it's very difficult. The other thing that we do, so that the number of, since we have that many miles, that many images, they take images of them every 21 feet. So as we look at these, it's roughly it's like 21.1 feet or something like that, but just say roughly every 21 feet. Quickly, here's our you want to look up, like, if something happened to a guide rail, where's the guide rail? Let's verify that guide rail was there, whatever happened. Signage, like billboards or even street signs, they can verify. They can look at safety things. Like I said, you can, since it's authoritative, I can look over courses of years, see a kind of any improvements that have happened to the road. What did they do this shoulder? What do they do for, potholes or, any kind of resurfacing? You can see that very quickly over the course of time. All right, so at this point, we'll go ahead and jump into the demo. So when you would go to the website, it's right now it's gis.penndot.gov/videolog. And I say right now, there is a domain consolidation project underway in the Commonwealth to get rid of the actual individual agency website. So it'll be PennDOT.pa.gov, probably in a couple weeks. So the first thing you get to, so we can go through this quickly. I see that it's already 1:16. You'll get an area of interest. And so depending on your business needs, there were a lot of different folks from BOMO, the districts, that were asking for different ways to be able to get to a selected route. It could be something as generic as just give me everything in the state, which would be the very first column. It could go by a region. So I could go by, we have engineering districts in PennDOT. There's 11 engineering districts. Anybody know which one's missing out of, because there's 11 and it's 1 through 12. District 7. But anyway, so you could go by district, county, municipality, MPO, some really interesting ones if you were someone who really wanted to look at a particular legislative district. We have those in here. When you would go in to them, you could actually, well, I probably have to refresh this because it's been sitting so long. You'll actually go through each of the districts and it gives you the actual representative. So you could, if you know what district you're in, you could go right to it. If you don't know your district, but you know your representative, of course, you could search the screen, find that person and go to that district. Same with the Senate districts in the state, as well as our federal congressional districts, all of those. So you determine what you want to go and search in, and just click it and you go, and it'll zoom and highlight that area for you on the map. Now, as you can see, we have 3 different panes on here. They are fully sizable, so you can drag them, make one bigger or smaller, and of course, when you make one bigger, it makes the other one smaller. That's one of the difficulties with this application, is not one size fits all. Whatever size you want to make it, you can make it. And then once you're in there, if you want to go and switch to a different AOI or area of interest, you can come in here, pick your region, or if you know the route, a lot of folks in the districts, they know their routes. You know, I want to look at Route 15 in Adams County. So I would go in here, I could say what county, you first have to tell it county route segment. So I could pick the county, then I have a drop down for the routes, which are in numeric order. And then if you want to, you can add which segment you want to look at. So if you don't choose that, it'll just take you to the overall route. Or if you don't know the route number, but you know the name, you could look it up by route name as well, doing the same type of thing. Asset IDs are things like BMS numbers, like for bridges, or if it's an MPMS project. So if you have something that's in construction, you could search for it this way, or you could do the old standard, hey, give me an address. It will take you to either that SR and bring that up for you, or if it wasn't on an SR, it would take you to the closest one to that. Of course, you always have to have latitude and longitude if you want it to be able to go to that location. Or if, listen, I don't really like this one too much, but you can go by intersection. So if you want to have 2 roads that you know are intersection, that's where you want to go, you could put that in there as well. So we're just going to go by a route like I was doing, and we'll do that. And it'll take me right down to the entryway to Pennsylvania, right on US 15. And as you can see, we can drag and move that around, zoom in on the map with the location. So once we get in here, you pretty much have like your DVD buttons for moving around in the videos. So if I just hit the play button, it'll start to play it, and we'll be moving down the road. You can, and I'll show you in a second, you can set the speed and all of that. These keys are also associated right to the keyboard, so you don't have to use your mouse all the time. Space bar will get it to stop and start. The right and left arrows right next to that are frame forward and reverse. So if you hit it on the keyboard, you'll go up a frame at a time, or you can go backwards. The next one on the outside, which would be a shift in the arrow keys, that'll take you to the beginning or the ending of that segment. So if you wanted to go from segment to segment, you could view it that way as well. Now, since we are on a divided highway, we do have the 2 arrows up here, which allow you to jump to the other side of the highway. So if I click that, it'll take me over to the other side of the highway. The regular state routes that are not divided, you will not see that. The hamburger menu up here gives us a lot of different things that we can do with displaying the video. Some of the one interesting one is the playback speed. Very difficult unless you're locally on network within the building. If you try to go below an image every half second, it'll probably stutter. You won't see the image until you pause and it catches up. But guaranteed, it's hilarious that if you ever do this within the building, you can get going pretty fast. If you set it down to 0.2, you're going about 70 miles an hour. So, and if you wanted to take a trip across I-80, you could do that. You could just have it play in the background if that's something you would want to do. The enable auto run is a nice feature that when you get to the end of a segment, it stops. If you check this, it'll just keep playing, going from segment to segment. I did talk quickly about speed. The full-size image selection here allows you to switch between the full-size and that reduced quality one. So if you're having a performance issue, you can click that. It'll go to the reduced quality image. And if I do that, you'll see it. Now it's a little blurry because it's a much more compressed JPEG. And you'll be able to go down the road quicker, and then you can just switch it back over to the full-size images. One of the features we just added a few years ago, which is, I think, one of the best features of this application, is to show historic video log. So at the bottom of the image, you'll see a slide bar, and I can pick what year. And there's where I'm talking about authoritative data. I can look at every image between 2007 all the way up to 2022. Every year, since it's a US route, we have images. So if you wanted to see something that had changed over that course of that time, you could easily see it here. And I'll just quickly jump back to like 2010, and you can see a little bit difference. Some areas you can really see, like construction, things like that. One of the last things, if you don't like having the 3 panes, if you double click the image, it'll take it into its own window, and you still have the same functionality within that, but then you can actually fully maximize the image to the screen size. So if that's what you're just looking at. Quickly, just over here, we have 6 tabs that a lot of the folks that use this within PennDOT want specific data. You have your basic tab, and I'll just finish up with this, that shows you information regarding the segment. So you can see the segment, the length, and where you actually are with lat long. The segment data, if it gives you all of the offset images listed, and you can click on each one of those, and it'll take you directly to there if you wanted to be able to use that feature. Admin data gives you a lot more information concerning the segment. Gives you, as you can see, additional data like what type of road it is, like truck traffic, so you can see average trucks that have crossed it, pavement information as well. The pavement conditions is what's taken from the other data that was the originator for Videolog. So you can see things like industry roughness index, the IRI number here. And I think if it's, what did I have it written down to? So if the IRI is less than 95, it means it's a nice smooth road because it's about the number of inches over the course of the mile that the vehicle will go up and down. 96 to 170, it's acceptable, and anything above that is poor. And then we have shoulder conditions, which is data that's taken from another project called STAMP, where they go out and they survey the roads every year, but they have it broken down into 4 areas. So every road will get done over a course of 4 years. They have interns during the summer that go and do that. And then the last I have on here is the guide rail conditions, which is also taken from STAMP. And if the section or the segment has any guide rails in it, it'll bring them up, tell you where they are, what the construction material is, what the condition is, and things like that. So, wow, it's 1:25 already. I kind of had to rush through that. I'll just put up a slide of information about me. If you want to contact me, if you have any questions whatsoever that I might be helpful, feel free to email me directly. There is also on the screen a resource account so that it goes to a larger group that maintains Videolog. So if you have a particular question on Videolog, it'll go there and somebody will get back to you.
Thanks, Jeff. We probably, if anybody has any questions, while Patrick's setting up for his, we can possibly take a question if anyone has. Hold on a second, Eric.
I'm going to just jump right back in there for a second because the one thing I mentioned, which is really cool that I didn't even get to, was going up to the tool where I said about having Street View. And if you click on the map portion, it'll update Street View so that you have Street View as well as that. So then you'll have that. That's where it was. I forgot to show you that because I was rushing through. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Did you calculate the return on investment, or how much you're saving in field visits?
No, not that I am aware of. Like I said, it just came out of the business need, and actually it was the use of it. I don't know how we quantify other than if we wanted to determine number of users based on internal, external, but to qualify, people not going out into the field and all that. I have no clue, and nor do I, unless upper management has ever done something. I've not been involved with that. Sorry.
Thank you, Jeff.
All righty.
So we'll give a few minutes here for Patrick to get set up on his presentation, and then we'll get started and move right along.